This video today is aimed really at the beginner. We're going to take it back to some basics. I watched a kid the other day on the beach just try and get started, and there was a few things he was struggling with that I think we'll try and break down for everyone really. So one of the first things was he didn't have a leader. This is actually a tapered leader, so it starts really thin where it meets the main line here. This thinner main line, it's about 0.35 mil, and then it gets thicker and thicker the closer it gets to the bit where you tie the rig on. So joining two equal diameter pieces of line. For the benefits of this video, I've just got 60-pound line, just so you can see it, but obviously if you're fishing from the beach, so two lines of equal diameter, lay one over the other like that. Always best to moisten the knot. And then I just start by wrapping one over the other, so with my thumb and forefinger there, just keeping that tight. And then it's easier to show with this thicker line, but the knot will tie slightly differently to your normal 15-pound line. And the reason I do that is just so when you form a loop like this, grab it again between the finger and thumb, you're going to put this line through here, but it just makes it easier to put another set of loops through. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's go for about 7 or 8, and then in that sort of situation there, and then I'm just going to pull all those bits of line a little bit taut, and then all the knots fall into place like that, and that will run through past the other bit of line. So it's a little bit easier to show with this thicker line, but you would get, you know, 7, 8 loops on the thinner bit of line. I'll show you that in a minute. So same on the other side, and you're going to thread that through the gap, through that hole, and back out the other side. So do like that. 1, 2, and it's a bit easier to tie with something thinner line. Let's do about 8 in there, and then you're just pulling everything tight. And you get to about there. If that was thinner line, you could just pull that through. Because it's thicker line, I've got to sort of pinch it. And all those loops should tighten up. And you've basically got, and then if you pull on both ends, those two push up against each other, and that is what forms the bite. And obviously a bit of moisture in there as well, and then you actually a little bit of a pull around, and then just cut. Use nail scissors or normal scissors. And leave a little bit of a tag there. So 2 lines of equal diameter. So it's slightly different when you've got thinner line like this. You do have to try and keep everything quite taut. So still do the same amount of loops. Let's go 7 or 8, maybe 9. And that loop round. Remember, this is the sort of line diameter you'll be using for the beach fishing. And then go through that loop again, 7 or 8, something like that. And left with that. Now, the difference with the thinner line is that should almost bite down just at the end there. I'm just going to pinch that. So, got those initial loops there. You can just put your fingers through both bits of line and then pull that running end through again. On there. Just a little bit harder, isn't it, doing it with a thinner line, and imagine doing this on the beach. You'll be out of the wind really. So yeah, run that one through. There you go. How many is that? About 9. This feels right. And then you're pulling that through. I'm just sort of pulling all bits of line there. And then when it starts to bite down, you don't want to bite down too tight, just pinch those loops. So let me show you. And then pull the two together. Really give that a good pull. You don't want that coming off with a big fish on it. Some people put super glue on. I don't really think it needs it, but the main thing is that's moistened as well, isn't it? There you go. Things change in sea fishing in terms of what fish you might see at a particular venue. Here in Hastings, we never used to see, say, bullhuss, and occasionally I'll have a session where small bullhuss are the only thing that I catch. Same can be true of the thornback ray. Small one. As well. It's ripping into me. You see it's got the thorns there. And particularly conger eel as well. If you take the conger eel as an example, we never used to catch them for years and years on end, and then all of a sudden we're catching some good conger eels off the shingle beaches here in Hastings and Eastbourne. So things change. You know, if I would have carried on reading Sea Angler, I would have never believed some of the catches that were happening on my patch, and I'm sure it's the same up and down the country. Certainly you would never think of fishing for bass in Scotland going back 20 years if you were to read the magazines, but actually some of the best fishing in the country is in Scotland for bass. So all I'm trying to say is things change. You know, you could be fishing one season and there'll be no codling on your venue, and then the next year, because of some sort of factor, I don't know what that is, but you might find there's codling on that venue. So and this is obviously a note to myself as well, is not, you know, don't discount where you're fishing thinking that you don't catch whatever fish from there, when actually the following year you might catch a load of those fish. I think that's what I'm trying to say. So it is well worth knowing that things change. What we got here is the wind's coming off my back, so I'm facing away from the wind, and then you tighten into that lead, so you're basically feeling those grips on the lead. You don't want to be dragging that around for this sort of fishing, and then stick it in there nice and tight. We've got quite a high rod tip here because of the surf that's coming in. There's quite a bit of weed. And we might get little taps on that rod tip straight away because of the weed in the water. I'm noticing quite big clumps out there. Let's see if we can fish through it. Which, when we say fish through it, it basically means put up with it. And you want to set that up so that you can really see any bite indication from those rod tips. I used to buy real cheap tripods, but there are some excellent tripods. Every single one of the ones in this group test here will serve you well. We go into a lot more detail. I've since added this little tray to it as well. Rock solid and can really help you pick up the bites. And so I spent years messing around with silly little tripods, but actually from the beach, just getting that right will really enhance the sort of pleasurable side of your fishing. Get yourself a good tripod. Into your local fishing shop if you're going to be sea fishing for the first time. Great example down at East Hastings here, and this is a rare occasion where the gents, Martin, has a chance of having a sandwich and Cliff's having a donut by the look of it, but they are always here to help you out. So if you're coming to sea fishing from another side of fishing, perhaps carp fishing, or what we've got here, pike rod. So this is a pike rod. So a pike rod in my right hand, and then a sea fishing rod. This is a Ziplex. This is a Ziplex rod. You can see the difference in the sizes. It's a real harsh environment, the sea, isn't it? You can see here the difference in the thickness of the rods. the length of the rods. A lot of these sea fishing rods 13, 14 foot, but also a lot more powerful because we need to cast those big weights, don't we, those 5-ounce weights, to have any chance of it holding down in the seabed. We can always dream about 500-pound rods. This Ziplex would be an absolute dream to cast. Beautiful rod, really well made, really well finished. If you wind up a big cast and have a good technique, something like this will be amazing, but it's not what I recommend for us beginners. If you're just starting off in sea fishing, you need a rod that's a lot more forgiving, and you don't need to spend this much. So I'm going to put that away, maybe ask for it for a Christmas in 2 or 3 years if you're starting sea fishing. So you can get some really good cheap sort of starter kits as well in your tackle shop. And they'll usually put together, you know, like a rod, a reel, some line, and might even, you know, chuck in a couple of rigs and a couple of weights to get started. These are the rods they got in Hastings. You know, you'll get out and you'll make a few casts. You can see it's, you know, this one's even a 14 foot. It's a 3-section rod. Big grips on there, and this will get you fishing. And there's no real problem with this at all. The only thing is, I think if you're really going to get into fishing, you will very quickly realise the limitations in a bog standard setup like this. But if you're not sure whether sea fishing is going to be for you, perhaps you want to try it on holiday or something like that. Honestly, this is all you need just to get started and see how you get on. I would personally, you know, I think it's worth spending a little bit more. I mean, they've got up here, look, where are we? Yeah, see, they've got this Sonic Vader 12 foot with that Sonic reel that we looked at. And they're doing that for 130. So yes, you're going to be spending, you know, 80, 90 pound more for a slightly better rod. But I think the difference in feel might just keep you keener maybe for the first few sessions. You can spend as much as you want really on these rods. Normally you'll find something under £100 for a general 13 foot, 14 foot beach rod. Nice red Daiwa one there, look. Yeah, it's a Daiwa. Oh, so you never know what to expect in September. It's like one of those months where the bass are getting bigger. You could always have codling here on the south coast, as rare as they are. Yes, it's a really exciting time. And then with the lure fishing, which I absolutely love lure fishing, if the water clears up a bit more, then you've got some really good lure fishing as well in September, October, all the way through to November. And we even had out here in St Leonard's mackerel in November as well, if the weather plays ball. So with that bait in the water, I've got enough time to tell you about today's sponsors of this video, which is Tester Up. Now, Tester Up is an app that you download to your phone. It just comes up as an app, and you play games, can do surveys, and you actually get paid for doing it. So you can test out these games. It's had great ratings on Testpilot, and you genuinely get money paid direct to your bank account. You basically go through it and you can actually see the money sort of ping into your account underneath. So if you are on your phone and you want to earn money while being on your phone or even playing a game, then please check out Tester Up. I'll leave the details underneath. Theory 13 foot. I'd say that would be like a good beginner's rod. So there's two types of reels in sea fishing. There's fixed spool reels here, and we've done lots of reviews on the channel over the years. And I'd suggest if you are sea fishing for the first time, go for a fixed spool type. They have multiply reels here in the shop as well. These are second-hand ones. I actually started with this, the old 6500 CS Rocket. Look at that, beautiful. They're beautiful bits of machinery, those. There's modern versions available as well, but if you are fishing for the first time from the beach, then certainly go for a big fixed spool reel. They're a lot easier to use. Some of the makes you'll see a Pen, Achios, and actually we did a review. I'll leave that video up there as well as a review of different ones. Pretty much, you know, very similar between brands, but you don't really need to spend more than 100 quid on a good reel. So you can spend a lot more. And these Pen Tidal ones, see, a couple of £100 there, 370 for a big pen slammer. But ultimately, and you can actually get these for under 100 as well. I mean, the Sonic SKS 8000, look at that, looks all right, doesn't it? 50 quid. Similar sort of thing, a Tura and a Kuma. You'll see that Akuma brand pick up quite a lot. I really like a big waterproof black plastic. I really like a waterproof box. This is a Tronix Pro one here, and it's a seat box, so you can sit on it on the beach. Got a big strap, big bit of padding on there. Those are really good. I mean, you can use rucksacks or anything, but there's just something good about a seat box when it comes to organising your gear on there. So we're inside Hastings Angling Centre here. These are leads, so we refer to them as leads. Basically the weight, and you need that to compress the rod and to get out your bait as well. So you can see here we've got 5 ounce, 6 ounce. We tend to use ounces to describe the weight on those, and it's about the same as usually on here, 170 grams for the red ones, 150 for the yellow, and these are colour coded as well, often referred to as breakaway leads. You see there, you've got the green top. And the way this works is you're going to put your bottom hook of your rig onto that clip, and when that hits the water, this bit flies off and disengages the hook that you've looped round onside that clip there. So very often we'll be using 4 ounce leads, and as I've shown on this channel before, you've got these little grip spikes. And you can use this over rocky ground as well, but they are ideal for shingle. You can tighten them up and clip them in. That will stick in the shingle and then present the hook on your rig in the tide really well. So my next tip is bait presentation, and just taking your time to make sure that that bait is well presented on the hook so that fish will hook itself and the juices stay on that bait that you're using, whether that's, you know, mackerel or lugworm, squid, razors we've got here. And I'll be honest, this is more a tip for myself as well. It's something I need to improve on, and it's well worth watching some of those match anglers and how they do it as well. The trick, I think, is not to rush. So in the old days, I would rush to get a bait in the water, but this is the time you need to slow down and really consider how the fish is going to hook itself when you tie on the bait. So here's a little clip from an old video of how to put that lugworm onto the hook. Just a real basic idea, and rather than that thumbnail that you saw when you clicked on the video, this one is better presented. You don't just lob a worm on a hook. Take your thumb and forefinger and just make sure that that point of the hook doesn't break the outside of the worm, and thread it all the way along over your knot. You might need to pull both ends of the worm. You see where I'm doing it both ends there. So you just pinch gently, and then with the point of the hook, when you get right to the end, it can either come out the end or just nick it right towards the end, leaving a little bit of a tail after the end of the hook. And that's probably the simplest, easiest way to put a lugworm on the hook. There are a couple of sort of variations you might want to use when you're doing it. If you throw the worm down, it stiffens the worm up, and you can actually find it's easier to run along the shank of the hook. And then on your actual snood, the line that you're putting the worm on, some people put stop knots. You can use sort of power gum and sequins just to stop the worm going up the hook again. But for a worm like that, that's not a bad little bit of bait presentation. I've seen people but twists in the worm as well. I'm sure if I'd have spent more time thinking about how to present the bait, using the bait elastic properly, and literally just taking more time, that's something I really wish I'd have done. So a real reminder to just take your time on the bait presentation. I do not know it all. I certainly can make a lot of improvements on my bait presentation, but I'd encourage you to do the same. And do you have any other tips for anyone else? There's a few more I just want to mention, but before we look at those briefly, what about yourself? Is there stuff that you did when you first started that you just think, I wish I didn't do that, and it can help anyone else that's sea fishing for the first time here on this video? So, and there are plenty of things I didn't do. I never used to use a clip on the end of that leader that we started off talking about. That way you can quickly change the rigs. Using ready-made rigs is best, I think, as a beginner, to have a look at the variety of different rigs. It's really worth tying your own rigs once you've been fishing for a while, but I think to start off with, buy some ready-made ones, put them onto the rig winders, and each of those will suit different conditions and different species that you're after. But just have a good variety ready to go, and then you're not wasting time on the beach tying knots. I have a fridge full. I think Cliff's going in now. Look at this, right on time, good timing, Cliff. And what he's doing is he's taking out lugworm. They're the fresh ones. So the fresh ones are obviously better. But another tip I could have mentioned is just have your own frozen supply of bait. You may have to work it around whoever's in charge of your kitchen at home, but a good freezer stocked with baits will see you be better prepared for your fishing. So yeah, what about yourselves? What would you tell the beginner? Is there anything that you wish you'd have known when you first started sea fishing? So this is going to be a basic overhead cast. I don't want to go too far here. Just got to pop it in between the reeds. You can, these are continental rods, you can just hold it like that and let the rod do the work and flick it out. So that's a real basic cast. And if you're a beginner, start with a few of those. This little strap conger that pulled itself into the rock. I could feel it thudding. I think it was a conger in there just sort of taking the bait. So if you are new to sea fishing, you might find one of those two videos there will help you out.